everyone. My name is You Lü. Today my topic is about trade. More specifically, why countries trade. So as a student who studies trade theory this semester, I believe you will gain as much as insights as I do from these theories. Before I start, I want to ask you to look around and take a look at your t-shirts or the bag in front of you. I bet you will see made in China somewhere. So my question today for you is why China trades these products most? Let me start with, I'll introduce you one model and one concept. The model is Ricardian model and the concept is comparative advantages. Let me start with Ricardian model. David Ricardo is a British political economist back in 18th century. And quite different from his previous Adam, the famous Adam Smith, who created the word invisible hand. David Ricardo believed that countries, to improve the welfare of a country, the best way is not by maximizing the export, i.e. gaining the good as much as possible, but by exporting the goods that the country has competitive advantages in exchange for those that are not. And by explaining what is comparative advantages, I want to use an example to illustrate my idea. So suppose we have two countries, the US and China. They produce only two goods, grain and clothes. For the US, the productivity is 9, 4, 2, 1. This is a productivity, i.e. the 1 unit per hour, the units they can produce per hour. So we can see that the US have absolute advantages in both goods, but amazingly, China has comparative advantages in producing clothes. Before I explain this technically, I want you to think of it intuitively. We often hear people say, use your comparative advantages. So what does that mean? It simply means that when you have focus on the aspect that you are more competitive compared to your partner. So in this case, to produce 1 unit of clothes, China needs to sacrifice 2 units of grain. But on the contrary, the US has to sacrifice more than 2 units to produce 1 unit of clothes. Therefore, China has, we call it lower opportunity costs, i.e. the comparative advantages in producing the goods. This is the logic behind the Ricardian model and why countries trade. And the same, if 2 countries trade and China produce more clothes, it can export those that exercise their own domestic production. And the same logic applies here to the US. US could export the grain in exchange for the clothes that they cannot produce as much as China does. And so the net gain of trade increases. The trade is mutually beneficial to both countries, but I want to point out that Ricardian model is not perfect, and it may not capture the reality as much as we think. But it's a good example to illustrate why countries trade, and it's a good starting point for us to understand the logic behind trade. To conclude, because different countries have different productivities in producing different goods, they have comparative advantages, and using that, countries could have net gain. Thank you. Any questions? It's a bit dry, I know. Technical. It's probably not the first thing you want to hear in the morning.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So does comparative advantage this idea apply in all the cases without exceptions? So does this actually can apply in any cases that we learn?
Yeah, if you use the strict assumptions that Ricardian model uses, like countries have different technology, but they have same utility costs.
Right.
Yes.
But it seems to me that like China will finally, if we're looking at this example, so China will finally accumulate the same amount of wealth that the United States will, has already, and they will finally, go to converge.
You mean the
to
technology will increase?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. If you can, the thing that you can earn from the trade will equal to what the U.S. can benefit from the trade. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is correct. In fact, Ricardian model does explain like if China increases technology, what will the net benefit be?
Mm.
But the thing is, it's more the reality is more complicated than that, and when it involves wage and like in domestic distribution, things could be quite different. But the intuition here is that as long as we have comparative advantages, countries could trade.
Great. Thank you.
Would you elaborate on criticism that Ricardo models base
Criticism?
on criticism?
Wow, that's a good point. That's a good question. The criticism, I guess, is the assumptions is too strict. We have at least 4 assumptions about Ricardian model, and I think in reality you can't apply this strictly. Like countries have, for example, countries have same utility that people in US and people in China love the same kind of clothes. It's impossible. But yeah, I guess it's kind of out of my boundary. When I study trade Ricardian model, we didn't cover the criticism. Sorry about that.